Ben Shapiro's conservative news website The Daily Wire has trounced every other publisher on Facebook in 2021, in terms of engagement metrics such as likes and comments that legacy news sites don't come anywhere close to matching. TV ratings for August, meanwhile, show Fox News once again beating its cable network rivals like CNN. And Substack is proving a durable publishing platform for right-leaning media figures like Glenn Greenwald, who no longer have to find a way to operate within the strictures of a mainstream media ecosystem. None of this, of course, is happening in a vacuum. New data from the Pew Research Center shows that trust in the mainstream media among Republicans continues to essentially fall off a cliff. And it's not as though those disaffected news consumers don't have anywhere to turn, in search of alternatives that are more palatable to them. Against the backdrop of having more news and opinion than ever now presented through an avowedly partisan lens, the results of the new Pew Research Center survey show, among other things, the partisan spread between these two groups, 35% among Republicans, compared to 78% among Democrats who say they trust the national news, is the largest it's been since the Pew researchers have asked this question over the last 5 years. The gap gets even wider when the partisan dial is turned up even more. Among liberal Democrats compared to the most conservative Republicans? No surprise, even fewer of the latter say they have faith in the national news media, just 30%, compared to 83% for the former. Overall, according to Pew, about 6 in 10 U.S. adults, 58%, say they have at least some trust in the information that comes from national news organizations. While still a majority, this is the smallest share over the past 5 years this question was asked. When it was last asked in late 2019, 65% expressed at least some trust. And far fewer, 12%, expressed that they have a lot of trust in the information that comes from national news organizations. By way of putting all this into some historical context, this phenomenon can also be weighed against the backdrop of a specific news narrative that will be increasingly prevalent in the coming days. Specifically, the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 terror attacks. Already, there's been a predictability to the news coverage timed to this sobering milestone moment, which marks 2 decades having passed since hijacked planes were flown into the World Trade Center as well as the Pentagon, killing almost 3,000 Americans that day. It cannot go unmentioned, for example, that the abrupt and chaotic departure of the U.S. from Afghanistan in recent days marks a dramatic turnaround from the military response that was launched 20 years ago. Nor should the controversial surveillance apparatus that was stood up in the wake of 9/11 be forgotten.